as far as I know, my pastor is the only one that I can find anywhere who's actually taught about spiritual adulthood and its characteristics. So I can't refer you to the internet or any other place. So I'm going to have to go into a little more detail. I'm going to trust you guys to read the page in the SMP doc, the 4th and 5th pages of it, because I need to spend much more time on the pitfalls of spiritual adulthood. Suffice it to say that once you're really a spiritual adult, you are confident in understanding the Word yourself. What that means is that when you open up your Bible, you can read the Word and theoretically think. So when you see the word riches, all kinds of other words come to your mind. The filling of the Spirit is instinctive, so you're using 1 John 1:9 like breathing. And there's a characteristic cockiness and confidence because you know the Word. What you have not got at this point is confidence in executing it. And you won't have that for a long time. But you will be sure of what it is. You will be sure that it's the Word and not works. You will be constantly reordering your life in light of how you relate to God, and you will be less and less interested in the world. Because up front and center, it's about Father, it's about God, it's about how you relate to God. And it's probably going to be a tumultuous time. It was for me. It hit me one day. And it might hit you one day. So I'm going to leave you to reading the page for yourself, and I'm going to start talking about just the general panorama of it. As you'll see, there are 4 basic problem-solving devices, which are thought patterns and maturation patterns, which characterize you at this point. You are constantly using what's called a personal sense of destiny, that's my pastor's term, which is this constant jockeying of he must increase, I must decrease. And it's very much a struggle, because you're always evaluating yourself to not be doing good enough. Big characteristic of spiritual adulthood is that whatever you do, it's no good. And you're going to think you're a child, but really you're an adult. Second thing is the love for Father. It becomes a dominant motive in your life. You're no longer studying the Word to be smart in it. You're studying it because you want to know God better. The third thing that's going to come out of that is impersonal love, which is really independent love for all mankind. And that's going to manifest as honor. You're always going to have this standard, or you're going to start to always have this standard that no matter what the other person is, and they will bug you more than ever. Okay, everything's going to start to bug you in this phase. But the standard of honor is going to actually bond to the upset. It's going to bond to the fact that everything irritates you and bugs you now. Everything irritates you and bugs you now because your standard has changed to Father. And everything falls short of that standard, so now everything is going to bug you. Okay, omniscience knows the horror, so now you start to know it too. The trick is for the honor response to bond. So it's a real struggle in this phase. Your cockiness and competence increase. But at the same time, so does the honor, and you are actually growing independent of people and things. Consequently, the fourth characteristic that really manifests in the latter stage of adulthood is what my pastor calls plus H, the happiness of God. It is an independent happiness. It is a happiness that does not depend on circumstance. That doesn't mean you won't feel bad. In fact, you're going to start to feel very bad all the time. That's the goal. But at the same time, you're going to have a contentment that bonds to the bad feeling. Okay? Christ felt worse than everybody. But his contentment was also independent of that and bonded to the bad feeling. Okay? Omniscience, again, knows all the horror. That's what you're being trained in. being exposed to the horror in ever greater amounts, and yet content, and yet having an attitude of honor. Competence in function is not going to occur, but you will keep striving for it, and you will keep on being upset with yourself because you don't meet the standard that's now in your soul. Okay. It has two substages, this adulthood. In the first substage, it's something like a honeymoon period where you're going to probably get some kind of material prosperity so that you can study more, which is what you're going to want to do. So you're going to get some kind of material prosperity so that you can study more. At the same time, you're going to find out that your relationships with people are going to change. People who are not so interested in the Word as you are going to be upset with you. Sometimes it's going to be your fault because you're going to be upset with them for not being so interested. But at other times it's going to be them being upset with you, so a distance is going to grow between you and others in your life. Those who are interested in the Word will not be distanced from you so much. But a growing distance in your relationships is going to occur, and that's where the honor is going to come in, and there's going to be a lot of upset with that. But at the same time, your distance means that you actually are beginning to really love them, because your need for them decreases. Need and love are mutually exclusive. So the less you need, the more you truly love, because it's independent of how nice people are to you or how nice your life is. So in the first stage, your life is going to start to be pretty nice for a while. You're going to be cocky. You're going to be confident of the Word. You're going to have a certain enjoyment of all that prosperity. It's the first time in your life where you're really going to find a tranquility and a satisfaction because you know now that you know. And at the same time, you know, this whole vertical relationship with God comes up front and center. Whether you're going to be cognizant of it on a conscious level or not is going to vary. It usually takes a while before you recognize this is where you are. In the second stage of spiritual adulthood, however, the shit hits the fan. It's going to hit the fan partly because of your cockiness, because you're going to misuse it, and you're going to try to tell people what the Word is and set, you know, the world straight. You're going to realize that the world is a terrible place, and you're going to sort of get involved in trying to fix the world for a while, and God's going to have to spank you for all that. And then on top of that, you're now front and center in the trial, so Satan and company are going to start picking on you. And my pastor classifies 8 different kinds of tests, which he calls momentum testing. But we're going to just categorize them as basically 2, inner testing and outer testing. Of both, you're going to have prosperity, which is really the harder test to pass, and adversity. Adversity means deprivation. Deprivations will increase like labor contractions. They will increase in length. They will increase in depth. They will increase in height and width, the 4 dimensions. The idea is to root you more strongly in God despite all the things that compete with God for your attention. But it doesn't really come to a head until the second half of adulthood, and it's very dicey to survive through adulthood. But at least in the first stage, you know, it's nice. But in the second stage, it becomes pretty nasty. The objective is to be developing in those 4 problem-solving devices, to be developing in those 4 thinking patterns so that they root and grow and stabilize, and you're really going to change a lot during this phase. You're going to start out cocky, and you're going to end up very weak. You're going to end up very humbled in a variety of ways because it's your fault and because it's not your fault. And the idea, again, is for everything to start getting thrown at you, because spiritual maturity is a stage of constant war and constant peace where the two are constantly bonded together. Christ is the ultimate high-low. Omniscience is knowing all the horror and all the glory all at once, and that's the goal for you, is for you to become united so that all the war and all the peace are bonded in your own soul by the time you die. So this is all preparatory to that, adulthood. It's preparatory to the maturity of a total merging, a total bonding of motive and doctrine, of war and peace, of knowing horror, of knowing glory, and still God is number one and everything else is so secondary it doesn't even count on the map. Again, competence in function will not occur. In fact, you are going to get weaker. But that's a preview of coming attractions.